This is Kal Kat, the Kal Kat Show. It has been a while since I did a Kal Kat Show. I've been mainly on my other channel, the Kal Kat Show 2 movie reviews one, doing a bunch of quick movie reviews to fill in a bunch of movie reviews we had done years ago and had been lost or not found or never completed. So we did a bunch of movie reviews over there, did a lot of them, and I'm now compiling discs for the 7th season, and 7th season disc 4 and 5 of the 7th season, and it fills up a lot of space on the computer. Currently, this is the 7th season of the Kal Kat Show. Back in months ago, we speculated that either mid-October or early November or late November was the Disneyland portion of the series. That'll be still early to mid-November. It is now early October, and I just got back from a movie, so we're going to review some movies from the rest of summer. I'm going to do that, recap them right now. I recapped them a little bit before. It seems that I left them out. I'm going to just quickly do them right now, and let's start off with tonight's movie. Let's start off with today's movie that occurred today. Ridley Scott's The Martian. That's a weird movie. This is a guy that was an astrophysicist who wrote a popular book only a few years ago that was first on the internet and out there. Now, the Wikipedia page makes it sound like he was discovered via the internet, and then Ridley Scott decided to option it for a movie, and Fox and Universal got in there for a movie and all that. Makes it sound like he was not known and he became famous. He didn't. He was already famous. He was already a famous astrophysicist person. He was already famous for other books and stories not associated with the internet. So even though the Wikipedia page says, oh no, we totally didn't know who he was until 2011, they did. So yeah, he's known. I've heard of him way before then. So yeah, that was a good book. So they made a movie, and a lot of quick movies are done like that nowadays. You got like the Twilight films were done into films from one source. The 50 Shades of Grey movie was done from one source. All these teen fiction things, the Divergent, The Maze Runner, Hunger Games, stuff like that. And they also, it seems like, they just became famous. No, they were known. They just weren't known to them. The author of Twilight, the Twilight books, Stephanie Meyer, she was known for the books in the young adult circles long before the movies. It just seems like it was a short time and she, boom, was radically famous. No, she was not. But yes, back to the movie, The Martian. The Martian is based on a book by a guy named Weir. I did not read the whole book. I read a transcript of it. I'll have to read it soon. But the movie was a faithful adaptation of the book, and it was a suspense thriller movie thing on a par with Moon in a way, because it's mainly about our main character, who is a astronaut in the future. It's about maybe 30 years from now, and they've gone to Mars, and he gets trapped on Mars because a sandstorm happens and he gets trapped, and bad things happen. So they think he's dead, so they head off and they announce it. The NASA people, for some reason, decide to cover this up for a while, which is weird. I guess that's this guy's idea of a conspiracy. But eventually, he goes around on Mars. The guy manages to make potatoes by farming the waste product, the poop from the habitat. And he actually manages to find the old Pathfinder rover. In the book, it's the Pathfinder and the Sojourner, but in the movie, it's just the Pathfinder. And he manages to send a signal to Earth and let them know he's still there. And then they gradually make contact with him, and then they order a rescue mission after they can no longer hide and be conspiratorial about it. I'm not going to give away the whole movie, and this is just a blurb. But yeah, here's my sort of little blurb view of The Martian. The critics are fawning all over it. They think it's the greatest thing ever. It's made about $50 million at this point. This is the first day out. It's a better Ridley Scott movie than Prometheus. I think he had more fun with this one. It's its own thing, so it's, you know, maybe it's just a better movie, all in all. He did not let Damon Lindelof anywhere near it, apparently. Good. So it's, yeah, I liked it, and I don't want to give too much away, because this is going online immediately. But yeah, go and see it in the theaters. I saw it in 3D because the next 2D showing was in an hour, and I had only another hour, so 2 hours movie, so I just happened to go see the 3D one. I want to see it again in 2D, so it's not as painful. Yeah, so I'm going to see it later again, but I'm saving up for Disneyland, so I would have to get a really cheap show to go and see it again. I'm sure it's going to be out after. It's going to be out for at least a month, I would think. Maybe several months, hopefully. There were a lot of potential Oscar movies on the way as well that were advertised. But there were a lot of crappy ones coming out as well. So look forward to crappy movies. I've been selectively reviewing movies because there hasn't been a lot to go on. And now I skip to more movies that have been out there. On one of the earlier videos there, I mentioned Shawn the Sheep, Mark's Cards, and I discussed it. Mark's Cards, and I saw it separately. This was a movie by the Adaman guys that did the Chicken Run and the Pirates movie. The other pirate movie. Yeah, not the claymation, animation one. And, they were... It was an interesting, fun movie. The premise was that this farmer has this really creative sheep who is smart, and he decides to go on an adventure. But then the farmer guy accidentally gets injured. Okay. So in the story, the creative sheep want to take the sheep want to take a day off. So they lock the farmer in the trailer. And the trailer somehow takes off on its own into the big city. And while it's taking off into the big city, the farmer guy, taking care of the sheep, it's all claymation. Farmer guy gets injured and it has amnesia. So later he's let out of the hospital and he becomes a barber. Because he remembers hearing something, so he becomes famous barber Mr. X. And the sheep have to go to the city to find him and bring him back. And there's a villainous dog catcher, and he's after them because he wants to control all the animals. And it's an odd little movie. I liked it. It wasn't the greatest thing ever. Very little dialogue. And it's an interesting little movie, slice of life thing. Worth a rental. It will keep some children amused. I would say ones that are extremely hyper, probably not. They'll walk off and do other things. But I would say the quiet ones probably would sit through. But yeah, so there's your there's a little blurb on that movie. This is all going to be on one tape, so just put it on one tape. Anyway, next we have Cabadabra meowing in the background. Cat. So the next thing, let's see, that I thought I saw, well, not in sequential order, but the next thing I saw was the little known. I kind of saw a little known movies. A little known movie called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And the Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie is actually set in the 60s during the show, and introduces us to the three characters, including it was a big deal back then, a Russian guy and a white guy, whatever. And the chick, and they go on adventures. So they go on adventure, the Girl Friday kind of thing, and they go on these adventures, and in the city, various cities, trying to stop the spy ring that's out to get them. And yeah, and they're a spy ring, so it's kind of like Mission Impossible, but in that same time period, but it's its own version, sort of like a Mission Impossible crossed with The Untouchables, crossed with a little bit of early James Bond, early Ian Fleming. In fact, there's a connection between not Mission Impossible. Okay, hold on. Okay, there's a connection between Ian Fleming and the James Bond books. Ian Fleming, who's the guy that wrote the books. The movies are all based on, loosely. Some of them more loosely than others, including the new Spectre movie that's coming out. Man from U.N.C.L.E. is based on an Ian Fleming story. So it's not a James Bond story, but it's one of his other stories. So that's where it comes from. That's why it seems a little similar. The character in it's the heroic Bond type of guy, but doing something else. And they sort of play off that a little bit. Kind of like the Kingsman story did from last year. I didn't really review that. So, yes. Oh, yes. Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah, so was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. a good movie? Yeah, I think it was a good movie. It's worth a rental. It's a spy movie, if you like that kind of thing. It's intrigue and adventure. I like that it's set in the 60s. They set it during the show. And if you were familiar with the show, it's like, oh yeah. I wasn't so familiar with the show, though. So when I went in, I don't know how close it is to the show in the movie. But now that I've seen the movie, yeah, there are a lot of DS9 references. Yeah, or vice versa. A lot of Uncle references in Deep Space Nine. Anyway, on to the next thing. Let's see. Okay, we got two things to go over here. Last year, I saw The Maze Runner. And I didn't know much about the Maze Runner series. It's yet another young adult dystopian series thing. I might have gone over that a little bit somewhere else before. And it's about these people in the future, in this dystopian future, after a solar flare erupts. This organization that, oddly enough, calls itself Wicked, which is really silly. That's their acronym for the World Education Kill Zone Defense or something like that. It's just convoluted. Anyway, I'm probably wrong on that one, but Kill Zone something. But they Kill Zone Command Education in Defense or something. But yeah, they're Wicked, and with a name like that, they're bound to be the bad guys, right? So apparently this society, this plague gets out because there's going to be a solar flare, and these military people apparently somehow subjugate the entire world. How they would do that, and try to inoculate them from the flare, which causes a plague. That's what's in the book in Killzone, the prequel. So the other three books in the series have Wicked testing people who are immune to the plague. The plague causes you to either go rage crazy or turn into a zombie. Either one, usually a zombie. So a zombie's in it, of course. Yeah, reason enough to see it, right? Zombies. But, yeah, the thing about zombies, though, is after 2 or 3 weeks, they would technically all be dead and rotting. But, oh, right, then you'd have no story. Anyway, so, we could go on about zombies infinitum at Bacon before, so. Anyway, but it just ruins it. But anyway, this story, Maze Runner, was about this team of teenagers who have to circumnavigate a maze they get trapped in, the maze wheel thing, so they can get out. They have to get past these weird creatures that have been engineered in there and get out, or they'll die. And in the first movie, they accomplish getting out of the maze. And it was okay. I wasn't a fan of the show, though, so I had to go find some people that actually knew about the Maze Runner after seeing it. Fortunately, April and Blake from the church group, young adults, knew about it. Told me all about it. But the apparently the movie deviates quite a bit from the book, and now that I've read the book, and they actually kill a main character in the movie they're not supposed to, And yeah, that kind of screws up the whole thing because he's supposed to come back later. So they sort of imply that he came back in the second movie just because, why not? But he shouldn't be back. He should be back in the books, but yeah. So, and then now they've come out with Maze Runner 2, The Scorch Trials. And they put them in this town. And although the maze story initially had them go into the maze or come out, and there was sort of a day-night cycle, there's sort of a linear thing going on here. In the new one, they go to this village that allegedly saves them. It's like a compound that saves them. And of course, bad guys. It's a new one that's just out, just now. Don't want to give away too much, it's still in theaters. It turns out they're not good guys, they're other bad guys that are indirectly working for Wicked as well. So they have to escape yet again, but they escape into the town, into the city. Devastated city, looks like New Mexico City, New Mexico, because it is. Except they made it look devastated. New Mexico. So they're down there in the heat, in the scorch. That's what they call it, the scorch. And New Mexico and Arizona are pretty hot. So, yeah. But if they're down there, it's not supposed to be Arizona or New Mexico. That's just where they filmed it. And they keep going around, running away from zombies, going to the city, going into a tunnel, coming out. And when they come out of the tunnel, they're somewhere else. And there's no time travel going on. There's no... there's nothing like portals through time and space or anything like that. They just edited it really badly. The movie is like this all the way through. At one point, they leave the compound. They run across the field. And they fall into a mall that's been put up in sand and stuff. That implies the mall is right next to the compound and underground. Doesn't make sense. Then they leave the shopping mall that's got sand in it. Yeah. And they go another way because the bad guys are chasing them. They go into another tunnel. And when they come out, they're in the middle of a city that looks like it's miles from that mall. It's the middle of this devastated city. And then later on, they go into another tunnel. And they end up in a desert that is nowhere near anything. And they start walking around the desert. And then they're near some freeways that are in the desert, apparently. And then the zombies come, and one of them gets zombied. And then they have to kill it. And he has to kill himself. Because he's a zombie. He's going to turn into a zombie. Not a rage monster, a zombie. I don't know how they made that distinction. They didn't explain. The second movie apparently is a mess. It'd be interesting to find April and Blake and ask them, okay, why is the next movie doing this? And I think Blake will probably say, I don't know. They messed it up. It's awful. They didn't do it right. but no, maybe it's like that. I don't know. I haven't asked him. But yeah, it keeps jumping around to these different places. And they find yet another compound. To go through the desert. It's out in the middle of nowhere because they've been there. It seems like for days they've been going off this second. The guys there are sort of turncoats, but not quite evil. And they help them to get to the sanctuary place up in the mountains. And to get there, they have to go down into the tunnel again. They go down the tunnel, and they come out in the damn city again, or at least a city that looks a heck of a lot like the city. Once there, the hero, who isn't a very charismatic actor, as some other critics have pointed out, the hero ends up in a rave, like in The Matrix 2. But not really. And he ends up in the rave, and he passes out, and he ends up waking up, and the hero dude from the compound has come back to rescue him. And then they go off to this other place. They got one of the girls from Divergent in it. I haven't seen Divergent, but I recognize the poster character. Like, that's confusing. It looks like she never know she's in the wrong movie. So eventually they're going to get to the sanctuary and everything is going to end up the other way. But I'm not going to give away the ending. So yeah, The Maze Runner 2, The Scorch Trials is the second one in a trilogy. They're not going to separate the third one into two more movies like they did with the Hunger Games. Fortunately, it's just one. Until the studio might decide to separate. I don't think they're going to, though. I don't think they're going to do that. If they do, they probably will at the last minute, but they don't have to because the characters are really all that not that likable. So it doesn't matter. So yeah, that was the Scorch Trials. Basically, a little snippet of that. The thing about dystopian societies in young adult fiction, I know the dystopia represents the young adult angst and growing up and all that. And the oppressive adults are doing this and that, and they have to stop the oppressive adults, and then they take over. What they don't point out is like what happens later. Society, those kids that were like out of line kind of grew up and they did their own thing. They would basically kind of devastate the universe. So that's kind of what's going on with some of the other stuff that's going on. Okay, let's see. I don't really have. Oh yeah, okay. One more movie to go over. Hotel Transylvania 2. I've seen it. The last I saw the first one with Amanda Rumsey from the church group. There was apparently a movie thing going on. A couple of years ago when it came out. Went to the movies. Yeah, cool. So not this time. I didn't go with anyone to the movie. So I checked out the sequel. In the sequel, the protagonist girl has a family and has a 5-year-old who the vampire guy then freaks out because he hasn't developed his vampire powers yet. So they try their darndest to give him his vampire powers, basically. Kids movie, Halloween, wacky sort of deal. It's not bad. It's all right. It'll keep the kids entertained, even the hyper ones. So go for it. I'm going to see it. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not great, but it doesn't try to be either. I think the jokes are actually a little better the second one because they were kind of thinking about it a little more. Thankfully, they do not have any poopy jokes. There's one fart joke in the second one. There were several in the first one. There was only one in this one. But yeah, there were some moments where that movie worked, I think. So, yeah. The audience was also excited. There were people in the audience. They were motivated to sit through the whole thing and enjoy it. Yeah, so, let's see. It's a kids' movie, though, so be warned. Whatever. So, nothing really scary, though. Not really. Oh, the thing popped up. So, let's see. What's the next movie? So I reviewed some of the movies, but I think I already mentioned that I had seen Trainwreck. So I think I mentioned what that was. Vacation. There was some funny scenes, but I think the excess LeBron James stuff, especially after the humiliating Cavs game between the Cavs and the Warriors, which the game came out. They filmed the movie long before the game, so they basically said the Cavs are going to be awesome. But ironically, the movie came out after the game and the game series, so it made it look weird and somehow dated. It wasn't their fault though; they didn't know. They figured the Cavs aren't going to. That wasn't their fault. The producers didn't know that. That's the trouble with like referencing pop culture though in your movie is that happens. Also, let's see. TV news: X-Files is returning and to television. They're probably not going to do the alien angle. It's kind of just conspiracy. We'll see. And a little later on, Twin Peaks is returning to television. Also, I looked at some of the reviews and such, and the